Alright, back to brass tacks with Wrestle-A-Thon. And we are on the Marine 2, starring Ted DiBiase Jr. Yeah, I remember which WWE DVD it was, but I put it in. And I remember seeing the trailer for it. I was like, what? They're doing a sequel to the Marine? And it said starring Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase Jr., whatever. He was, for some reason, they called him Ted DiBiase when he was in WWE. Even though he was Ted DiBiase Jr. And it was even more conflicting because his father would show up and they called him $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and then the other one, just called Ted DiBiase Jr. But Ted DiBiase Jr.'s career in WWE really didn't go anywhere. He was part of Legacy. He had a great tag team career with Cody Rhodes, and then in 2010, WWE decided, let's split them up. And Cody Rhodes ended up going on, he became big after WWE, but he also went on to become Intercontinental Champion a few times and win the tag titles at least one more time. Ted DiBiase never won a singles title. They gave him the $1 Million Championship for a while to kind of follow up his dad's run. He had the $1 Million Championship, he had Virgil, but he never really had a big push in the WWE. And you could say maybe this movie, I don't think that's the reason why, but quick plot crunch and I'm gonna sit down, okay? Plot crunch is Ted DiBiase stars as Joe, who is a Marine, of course. He goes on leave and it just so happens to coincide with his wife having to go to Paradise. They never officially say where they are, but they filmed in Thailand, but to Paradise. And while they're there, a group of mercenaries led by Jango Fett, I'm serious, attack, and it's attacking hold his wife hostage, and so DiBiase, or Joe, has to team up with Michael Rooker eventually to take them on and get his wife back and save the rest of the hostages. And yeah, so I always saw this as the worst of the Marine movies. It is. I don't think it's as good as the first one. There is less of explosion porn in this. There's a couple of explosions in this, 2 or 3 in this compared to the last one. There is more fight choreography in this one. And DiBiase did his own stunts. There's a lot more hand-to-hand stuff in this than there was in the first one, which is weird because John Cena could do stunts. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want him. Maybe it was a WWE thing. Oh, we don't want him to get hurt, so make sure most of the action is done with explosions, which is what they did in that movie, just like with The Condemned. But this one, there was a few hand-to-hand stuff, but there's way more ham? I don't. Forgot to put it away. Did it afterwards. But anyway, there's a lot more hand-to-hand. I'm trying to fix this. I tried to set it up, and there's a lot more hand-to-hand stuff in this than there is the explosions. The explosions are really towards the end of the movie, sort of. And so let's talk about the big elephant in the room. Ted DiBiase Jr. can't act. And it's not, you can say, oh, wrestlers, they can't act. I mean, you think they could act, they could do okay in the ring and stuff. When it comes to movies, they have to memorize lines. Wrestlers, when they have to read lines, it's not so good compared to, just going off the cuff and doing your own promos. Like Piper and Hogan were good at doing off the cuff, ad-lib promos. But you have to read, and so you have to remember the lines. And Ted DiBiase, he's not so good with this. And wrestlers inherently have a hard time with reading lines and remembering them and stuff. And but wrestlers like Hogan and Piper are those that, back in their heydays, the 80s and 90s, they covered up their being unable to act with charisma and going fully into the scene so that it shows some kind of an emotion. Ted DiBiase always feels like he's somewhere else. And you can excuse it because at the beginning of this, he's on an operation where a kid is accidentally killed. And you can say, oh, he's like this because you just, saw this happen. But he's like this for the entire movie. When his wife gets captured, when at times of desperation, when he's trying to talk church, that's Mike Walker's character, and helping him, it's very monotone. I need your help. My wife's in there. I need you to save her. I mean, at the point where she's like, God, it's beautiful, isn't it? He looks and goes, yeah, it is. And I'm just like, he has nothing. Maybe that's why he didn't go anywhere. He has no charisma. He's nothing. I think the kids nowadays will call it mid. Is mid. But, yeah, his acting is terrible. But then you get the villain, played by Tamara Morrison, Jango Fett, and he's a good villain. Tamara Morrison can play a good villain. He's a good actor. And even though this was filmed in Thailand, there was quite a few. There's not a lot of actors you can look up on this, but the couple that I saw were Australian. Tamara Morrison is from New Zealand. The actress who plays DiBiase's wife is Australian. But I know Australia and New Zealand are not the same thing. They're in the same part of the world, but yeah. So they get out to Paradise and they meet Church because he owns this thing where they're gonna go diving. He says it's closed, but then Joe and Church bond over them being in the military, and then they go diving and we get a makeout session on the beach, and then we get into our main plot. We're at this party, and then Tamara Morrison, I'm just gonna call him Jango Fett. Jango Fett and his men come in and take the place hostage. So DiBiase has to talk with this Asian fellow whose name I don't remember, and he has a group of people he's gonna send in, and DiBiase's like, I'm gonna go into, I have to save my wife. You're not gonna stop me, basically. And they're like, if you go in, we're gonna kill you. But then don't kill him because the sound of their gunshots will tip them off. And then DiBiase shoots a guy anyway. And then there's a betrayal as some of the people are secretly working for Jango Fett. But later it's found out that this guy is also working with Jango Fett. But then Jango Fett turns on him and blows him up. It's very confusing. My head hurts. And then we get this, Church shows up to help DiBiase, Joe, save the day. And he gets all the other hostages out while Joe goes to save his wife. And we get this chase where it's really weird because you see DiBiase in one place and Morrison in the other. And they're like, okay, they're not anywhere near each other. And all of a sudden, boom, they're running into each other. And it's like, wait, they were on two opposite sides. And all of a sudden, they're running right into each other and running. And like at this point, Jango Fett has kidnapped Joe's wife and has her in a secret place, and then they happen to just run into each other, and then they fight, and DiBiase just so happens to get knocked, or Joe, just so happens to get knocked onto the boat where his wife has been held captive. What a coinky ding, eh? Anyway, so there's a fight between Joe and Jango Fett, and he's able to get his wife out of there, and they knock Jango Fett into the hole where he landed, and there's like flammable liquid leaking everywhere, and Jango finds a flare gun. He goes, we'll both go, and he shoots it off, and they jump off the boat just as the explosion goes off. And like I said, there's a couple of other explosions in this. One where you think he might be dead, but to us, we never see the explosion where he might supposed to rubble landing on him. But yes, and so Jango Fett is dead, and the two are like, let's go home, and the movie just ends. There's no reconvening with church and talking to people. Nope, let's go home, and it's over, done. This movie's meh for me. It's the middle of the road. Yeah, I don't think it's as good as the John Cena one, but they could have made it better had they gotten someone who could act. Here's an interesting thing. I didn't see anything about having John Cena come back, but they were going to have Randy Orton. You're going to hear that a lot, I think. You're going to have Randy Orton play the role in this. But Randy Orton is a good actor. I've seen him in other movies. 12 Rounds, too. He's good in that. I think he would have done a better job. But apparently he had a collarbone injury at the time, so he couldn't do it. And this makes sense. I think this was during the $1 Million Mania thing in 2008. The 2008 draft. So, was it 2008 draft? I think that's what it was. And so he did have a collarbone injury. He wasn't able to wrestle. That's when they were in this DVD. But like, DiBiase wasn't even big at the time, and they were. If this came out in 2009, they must have filmed it in 2008. He wasn't even that big of a superstar at the time. They must have really just wanted to get this made. And you couldn't get John Cena to play the same character again, because this 2008 was big in John Cena's career, 2007, 2008. Yeah, they wouldn't have, they just threw him in there. Oh, we don't have anyone big, just have him do it. But if they had John Cena come back, apart from it being, his wife gets kidnapped again, they could have changed it to his sister or something. Or he and his wife go there, and the woman that's kidnapped is his sister-in-law, like Kate's sister or something. Or I don't know. But they could have had John Triton come back and be in this one too. I don't know how they would explain how he's back in the military. Maybe he got put back in, I don't know. Or, if they were making a direct sequel, they don't have to have that thing at the beginning. I don't know. But yeah, it's the middle of the road for me. I never really cared for this one. Particularly, I like the first one a lot. And I think the next one, Marine 3 Homefront, I think I remember liking that pretty good. But I just never particularly cared for this one, and I think it's DiBiase's fault. I think he just, because you think, look what we got. We got John Cena. And then in 3 we have 3, 4, 5, and 6 we have The Miz, who is not as big as John Cena, but still known. And then this one, Ted DiBiase. Didn't really amount to anything. Kept winning the tag titles a couple times. Other than that, nothing. Just nothing. And so, yeah. I think that's the big reason, is that Ted DiBiase, to me, just doesn't work in this film. I feel like they could have gotten someone who's a better actor. I mean, like I said, wrestlers aren't inherently good movie actors, but people like Piper and Hogan can use charisma to mask it. And even John Cena to a point. And that was his first movie, but John Cena to a point could, did a decent job. DiBiase, he sucks. And he's not even acting. There's no emotion to him. There's nothing. Even when his wife is captured, there's nothing. And I think that's the biggest problem I have with this movie, is that if the main actor is not going to put any effort into his performance, why should we put any effort into watching this? You know what I mean? And this is the second time period that I've actually watched this movie, because I don't care for it. It just doesn't work for me. But I still give it a middle of the road because the action sequences were decent. I think the villain was good. I love Michael Rooker, so it gets the middle of the road, but it's still not as good as the first one. For me, anyway. I've heard people say this is better, and I don't see it. You cannot say this is better with an actor with a main star who can't act. Say sorry. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the Marine? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And next, we're going into uncharted territory, folks, because next we're back with John Cena, and it's Legendary, which I admit I've never seen. I think it's a drama too. This might be a hard to watch. Until then, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.